style, speech, space, and why you don't fit anymore. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is Cringe Mountain, the becoming phase in the series The Black Sheep Becomes the Goat. This is the series for everyone who knows they're not who they used to be, but haven't yet fully arrived at who they're becoming. If you've ever felt stuck in the middle of your metamorphosis, unseen, misunderstood, or mistaken for a mess, this is for you. Today's episode is titled Style, Speech, Space, and Why You Don't Fit Anymore. Because one of the most jarring, unspoken symptoms of deep internal evolution is that suddenly, nothing fits. Not your clothes, not your voice, not your furniture, not even your name. You didn't make a grand announcement. You didn't wake up and say, I'm becoming someone new. You just started feeling the disconnect. The things you used to wear don't look right. The way you used to talk feels forced. The people around you no longer get your references, or your humor, or your silence. You try to show up as usual, and it all feels like a costume. Let's talk about why. This is not just aesthetic, it's alchemical. When people say you've changed, they usually mean your surface, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the content of your posts. But what they don't see and what you must honor is that this outer shift is just the symptom of a deeper metamorphosis. The external style change is the echo of a full identity overhaul. In spiritual terms, your frequency is changing. Your internal bandwidth is shifting, and that shift impacts how your soul wants to dress, express, and dwell. Because style, speech, and space aren't just superficial choices. They are reflections of vibration. They are the way energy is made visible. And when your energy evolves, the visual markers must evolve too. That's why your old clothes feel like a costume. That's why you keep stumbling over your words in rooms that once flowed with ease. That's why you're rearranging furniture at 3 a.m. or suddenly can't stand the color of your curtains. It's not impulsive. It's sacred. You're making room for the new frequency. Your outer world is trying to catch up to the truth of your inner change. Your style was a survival mechanism. Let's start with your look, because for many black sheep, especially those raised in environments where expression was policed, style wasn't self-expression. It was camouflage. You dressed the way you were told, or the way that kept you safe. You curated your appearance based on what wouldn't get you mocked, rejected, punished, or ostracized. Maybe you even went the other way, making yourself excessively loud, colorful, or rebellious in response to repression. But both are reactive. Both are compensations, not alignments. Now, in this becoming phase, you may be discovering your true aesthetic for the first time, and it's jarring. Because the things you once swore by your signature look, your go-to hairstyle, your favorite makeup, your default color palette, they just don't feel like you anymore. You put them on and feel out of sync. Not ugly, just not aligned. This is where many get stuck, because we build a sense of identity around our look. We invest in it. We're known for it. We fear that changing it means losing recognition, losing connection, or starting from zero. But here's what you need to know. Style is supposed to evolve. You're not betraying who you were. You're honoring who you are now. If your current look doesn't match your current truth, it's not authentic. And forcing yourself to stay visually consistent just to avoid criticism is a betrayal of your becoming. So if your hair wants to change, let it. If your wardrobe feels foreign, purge it. If your body is craving a new silhouette, a new scent, a new texture, follow the cue. This isn't about trends. It's about resonance. Your voice is changing because your identity is healing next, your speech. One of the most disorienting parts of the becoming phase is that your voice starts to sound different even to you. You pause more. You stutter in old conversations. You can't quite find the words. You don't tell the same jokes. Your stories feel old. Your tone feels off. That's not regression. That's realignment. You're shedding the scripts you were programmed to use, the phrases that made you small, the words that were never yours to begin with, the humble tone you used to downplay your brilliance, the apologetic laughter you used to fill space, the buzzwords you learned to survive in circles that didn't see you. You're starting to speak from your soul instead of your strategy, and at first, that feels awkward. The words don't flow like they used to. But that's because you're no longer performing. You're practicing truth. And truth, when it first emerges, comes out raw. It shakes. It hesitates. It cracks. Let it. Don't force yourself to speak like your old self just to make people comfortable. Don't shrink your tone to be digestible. Don't filter your clarity through old language structures designed to keep you small. You don't owe the past version of you a consistent character. You owe the current version of you an honest voice. And with time, your new voice will stabilize. It will feel rich, deep, true. You won't miss the old one. When you can't stand your own house anymore. Now let's talk about space, your physical environment. One of the most universal but least discussed parts of spiritual evolution is the sudden intolerance for your own surroundings. You look around your apartment, your bedroom, your office, and nothing feels like home. The colors are wrong, the layout is stale, the objects feel heavy. What's happening is that your frequency is expanding, but your space was designed for your old self. And now, your nervous system doesn't feel safe there anymore. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's outdated. Your old space is filled with objects, symbols, and configurations that anchored a past version of you. And your body knows it. That's why you feel restless, uninspired, or even repelled in your own home. This is not a failure. This is a signal. Space holds memory. Items carry energetic residue. And when you go through deep internal changes, your space must evolve to reflect that. Otherwise, you're constantly being psychically dragged back into the emotional patterns that live in those walls, those sheets, those corners. This is why some people move houses during awakenings. Others start rearranging everything, changing the bed direction, the wall color, the lighting, the mirrors. These aren't aesthetic whims. These are architectural acts of self-liberation. You are creating an environment that mirrors the person you are becoming, not the one you've outgrown. And sometimes that means saying goodbye to objects that meant something in the past. Sometimes that means donating books, changing art, or completely dismantling an altar you once cherished. That grief is real, but so is the relief that comes after. If your space doesn't support your frequency, it becomes a cage. Choose alignment over sentimentality. You don't fit because you're not supposed to. Here's the hardest part of this phase. You no longer fit where you used to, and you haven't yet found where you belong. This in-between is one of the most vulnerable points on the journey. You're too different for the old group, too raw for the new one, too complex to explain, too honest to perform. This is where people start backsliding, not because they don't want to grow, but because being misunderstood is exhausting. It's tempting to go back to what's familiar, even if it's fake. It's tempting to rewear the costume, to reenact the script, to reclaim the comfort of belonging, even if it costs your truth. But don't go back just because you don't yet belong anywhere else. Cringe Mountain is the climb through this dissonance. It's the awkward, humbling, brave transition of becoming someone so real, so full, so integrated that you create your own category. You weren't meant to fit. You were meant to be felt. The cost of authenticity is temporary. Misunderstanding. When you change your style, speech, and space, people will notice. Some will mock, some will question, some will say, "You've changed," like it's an accusation. Let them. You're not changing to impress them. You're changing to remember who you were before the world taught you to be someone else. This is the point where most people stall. They get scared of looking fake, or inconsistent, or ridiculous. So they try to change quietly, or wait until they're fully formed before anyone sees the process. But that defeats the purpose. You don't become authentic by waiting until it's safe. You become authentic by walking through the fire of visibility while still messy. You become authentic by being seen changing, not just changed. This is why you're uncomfortable. Because you're in the forge, the halfway house between black sheep and goat. And nothing fits, not because you're broken, but because you're becoming unrecognizable. And that's not a crisis. That's the point. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.